This is the Sluggo, slant and go.
Georgia Tech, Florida State.
If you're going to ruin this show by doing research,
Notre Dame.
my dentist is a Notre Dame grad.
Definitely smells.
Casey, the Beef Creek, and it's another Wednesday. It's another evening with me, Marty Coleman from Seldom Used Reserve, and I am in the huge, thriving metropolis of Kyle, Texas. Casey's in the Beef is in West Orange, New Jersey. Look like you're ready for wintertime, Casey. What's going on over there?
Man, it's starting to get cold and gray. My son actually, he doesn't sleep all that well. He slept in a little bit today. When he woke up, he looked at me and said, "Daddy, it's dark." So that's what we live in for the next, 5 months up here in the Northeast of just gray, rain, turn to sleet, snow. It's cold. It's cold.
So now I know why I do not live in New Jersey. But hey, Casey, we've turned into quite the fashion show here. I noticed you got a big R on your chest, and I'm guessing that stands for the undefeated Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
Yeah, they're currently tied for the top in the Big Ten East. I think they're in the Big Ten East. They are. We're excited up here in New Jersey. They're having kind of a reclamation project. They beat Michigan State last week. I don't care. It's still Michigan State. So they're excited. A lot of pub. It took me about 3 stores to find a Rutgers shirt up here. 3 sports stores. So obviously we're really excited up here in New Jersey for Rutgers.
Fired up, and you have doubled their sales all by yourself, right? And I got the Grand Prairie Airhogs, a now defunct independent minor league baseball team. I told my wife the old Hilton Head shirt I had on had seen better days, and I'd got my $30 or whatever it was. It was Hilton Head, so it wasn't 20. It was like $35 for a T-shirt in Hilton Head. Very nice T-shirt, lasted a long time, but it had seen better days. So I went looking for a shirt. I found this one. I got a couple other ones for some shows coming up. Now, you're usually the T-shirt guy or the shirt guy, and now you're the hat guy or the, but you're usually the one with those fancy T-shirts. So I know you're hoping to get some more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's become that, right? I started the show with trying to wear different things. There was a store in Omaha, Nebraska that was going out of business, unfortunately, that was really liquidating all their shirts. I was able to get multiple schools and shirts from teams that I would never wear or never thought I would wear. And so it's continued. I've kind of trying to wear the funny shirt or the shirts that were donated by yourself to me to Texas State. People have been starting to murmur about it a little bit. So I will tell you, I do take donations or suggestions. Not looking to go broke based on what my T-shirt selections, but I'm running out. I'm running pretty low on my selection for after 21 weeks. So anything, any suggestions, or I'll start a GoFundMe or something so that you can.
Yeah, you'll have to start over at the beginning, or throw on the Sluggo, or no, don't wear Sliders Sluggo shirt. No.
Mine might be that size before too long if I keep washing it.
Hey, speaking of shirts, I got some in the closet. I haven't worn these. I have to, if they still fit. A little something you don't know about me. 1999, I think you were probably in your 9th year at Clemson then or something.
It was my 4th, so I was a freshman.
First semester. In 1999, my Clemson roommate and I decided, he lived in North Carolina at the time, right outside of Charlotte, and he was a big hiker, and he decided that he and I needed to hike the Appalachian Trail. We didn't make it very far. I don't remember 50 or 60 miles. It seemed like a long way to me. But I know your friend who chimes in on the show every now and then from Alaska. Last week we were talking about Alaska. I know your friends from Alaska do some hiking, and they have a book. And we thought we'd share the book with the group here and see maybe there's some interest in that book. I know I've already ordered my copy, Patrice. So you've got at least one sale out of this.
Yeah, I definitely want to give them a little plug too, and a little side story real quick. Justin and Patrice Levine, great friends of mine, like I said earlier, live in Healy, Alaska, which is weird for them because they don't really pull up roots anywhere is specific. So I think they've lived in this place for as long as they've have anywhere, really. They have a great story, and that's really just the beginning of it. As both of their careers began to take shape sometime in the early 2000s, Justin as a leader in Parks and Recreation, and Patrice in medical writing, something was pulling at them, something more. They wanted more. This wonderful couple met in a hiking club in Arizona some years later, which is funny because they were both from New Jersey and had grown up about 5-10 miles, maybe max, from each other, didn't know each other, met out in Arizona, strangers on a trail, to ultimately meet up out west doing something they both had extreme passion for. And what a journey they've been on since. Sometime around 2010, they both decided to, quote, live a life less ordinary by pausing their careers, or so they thought, pausing their careers, and started to focus their lives on hiking, a true passion. Their first big adventure, like you spoke about, Marty, was the Appalachian Trail, except they beat you by just a couple miles, hiking the entirety, 2,193 miles from end to end.
Show offs.
After about 3 months or so, they completed it. After some intense research after the Appalachian Trail, they decided they needed more. So they did the research and they decided to travel to New Zealand and hike the not so well-known Te Aurora Trail, spanning some 2,000 miles, just thereabouts, from the top of the North Island all the way to the bottom of the South Island. And not only that, Patrice, using her skills as a writer, decided to chronicle their entire trip. And like you have up on the screen right now, between each step, a married couple's through hike on New Zealand's Te Aurora. This is the book that she had just published. It is definitely a book that she took a lot of time and took a lot of effort to get published. And I also ordered my copy. Cannot wait for the official release to come. I think it's coming sometime in November, but it is available for purchase, pre-order now by going to wanderinglavignes.com. That's WANDERINGLAVIGNES.com. Woo, that's a lot of letters. They are great people, great friends of the show. Justin has been a true one of my best friends in the entire world for a long time, and his wife obviously has grown into that role as well. If you're interested in funny, heartwarming stories about hiking, friendship, marriage, and everything in between, you're surely going to love this book. So in the words of Patrice and Justin, we hope you enjoy it. And as always, happy trails. WanderingLavignes.com. Check it out.
Hey, I can't wait to get my copy because it's one of the things I regret is I don't think I was going to make it the 2,000 whatever miles of the Appalachian Trail, but I wish we would have done more. It's one of those things you look back on at the time, you're thinking, oh man, I'm sick and tired of this. But we had a great time, just the two of us together. And this is really before, there were smartphones then in '99, but it was just starting. So we were out there. And all you can do is talk to each other, sometimes happily, sometimes not. But it was very basic, and it's really one of the things I took of it is you change. It changes you because, there was a guy without water, and we shared our water. And you just meet people along the way, and the normal standoffish kind of things you see don't happen out there on the trails when you're hiking. Everybody's out to help everybody else. And that's one of the things I took away from it. So, a lot of fun. I can't wait to get my copy, Patrice and Justin, and we're happy to share your story. And I told Casey, once we get the book and read it, I'm reading Ball 4 by Boughton now, Jim Boughton. So I'm like 50 years behind, but once I get the book and read it, we'll talk about it some more.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait too. And mine better be signed, personalized, signed. But no, I definitely wanted to give it a plug on the show with our audience. There's got to be somebody out there that likes hiking. Heck, we got Mr. Chad Yarber already talking about ordering a book. So even if we can get one or two, that's awesome. And like Nelson says here on the page as well, we'll absolutely put the information on the website. So she is a fantastic writer, a better person, if that's even possible. And very smart, very funny. So I think there's going to be a lot of fun stuff here. I know this is a college football show, but you're sure to enjoy it. And they talk about it, and there's been a lot of articles. She writes for Backpacker Magazine. They do tours for REI, the stores there. They work for a company right now, Subaru. Really, it's called Leave No Trace. They're a team. They're just really, really impressive folks. Really well spoken folks, and she's a wonderful writer. So they have a blog and everything. I could talk about Justin and Patrice all day. I'm lucky to have them as friends.
Good deal. Good to hear. Between each step, married couples through hike on New Zealand's Te Aurora. How did I do that? Was that right?
You did good. I phonetically spelled it out for you, so that was good. And who knows if I'm right? I don't even know if I'm right.
Hey, they had to phonetically spell out things for me when I was in Clemson, so don't feel special there. Hey, before we get to college football, the Levines are living in Alaska. Where'd you say in Alaska?
Healy, Alaska. That's the foot of the Denali.
Okay. They live in Healy, Alaska, and we'd like to know where everyone watching or listening is watching or listening from tonight. We talked about last week 21 states, and that didn't even include Alaska. And genius me, 21 states was on the podcast version. I hadn't even looked, and I don't even know if you can tell where the Facebook folks are from, but so jump in the comments, let us know where you're from, where you're listening from. And Nelson, we know you're in Myrtle Beach, right? Or you're on a bicycle, one or the other. So let us know. We'd like to know where you're from. So we'd also like to shout out JP Priester from allclemson.com. He keeps that Facebook group going, article after article, day after day. Man, that dude puts out some articles on Clemson, allclemson.com. JP Priester, we appreciate you, JP. Thank you for keeping that Facebook group going.
It's really good stuff too, which is fantastic. It's not like he's spamming everybody. It's good stuff. If you're a Clemson football fan, and he even delves a little deeper into college football as well, but the majority of it is Clemson football, which I am a fan of. It is actually very good information. So thank you again, JP, for coming on as much as you do have already and willingness to do so. We do appreciate everything you do.
Yeah, and he's also agreed to do help me out with a little side project next week I'm doing for the Notre Dame game, so that'll work out. Rob Schreiber is checking in from Phoenix, Arizona.
Nice, thanks.
We've got Justin. Justin's in from Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Very cool.
And hey, look at this. Alaska following his road.
Very cool.
Aaron Peets is checking in from Kodiak, Alaska. That is really cool. That's great to know. Thank you, folks, for checking in and letting us know what's going on and where you're calling from. All right, where you're calling from. This is not a radio show.
Not yet.
All right. Let's talk some college football, Casey. This is actually why we're here. But let's first start out with Ohio State. Hey, just like I predicted, Justin Fields plays one game, and Trevor Lawrence is no longer the favorite for the Heisman Trophy. And Ryan Day can't find the right personnel to kneel down, which I didn't even know was a thing. So you're telling me your backup quarterback can't kneel? I mean, come on now. Give me your thoughts on the Heisman and Ryan Day.
Well, Justin Fields is good, right? Like let's not beat around the bush. It's not like he's not deserving of the talk before the season. I hate that stuff. You know that. I hate the before stuff. But however, it's too early, man. It quite honestly, you know me and my feeling about preseason polls and all these things. It's too early to even talk about Heisman. Is it exciting for Clemson fans to talk about Trevor Lawrence and the Heisman? Absolutely. All I keep thinking about is Deshaun Watson didn't win it, which was a huge travesty. I don't care how good Lamar Jackson's season was. And Leonard Fournette won the Heisman in October that one year when he was running over people, and then he was nowhere to be found at the end of the season. So let's wait. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. But even to the national media, let's pump the brakes on Justin Fields. I'm not an Ohio State fan at all. I really like Dan Hope and his stuff and 11warriors.com. But let's pump the brakes. Justin Fields is good. We don't even know at this point if the Big Ten's going to finish the season.
Heisman Trophy winner for the 3-0 Ohio State Buckeyes. That was a preseason joke, and unfortunately, it might come true is what we're looking at. What do you think about Ryan Day saying that he didn't have the right personnel in to take a knee and therefore had to go over 50, had to hang the old 50 burger on Nebraska?
Well, you know, Clemson fans have to deal with this statement all the time, too. I thought that was a funny statement by him. You get caught in the moment, maybe, and that's what he said. We didn't have the right person. I don't know what is going on in his mind. But at the same time, stop them. Stop these kids. It's the same thing that happened with Clemson against Georgia Tech. You got your punter playing quarterback. Stop him. What are you going to tell him to do? You know what, guys? You've really worked hard in practice all week, but I just want you to just kneel down 4 times. You're in the game at least. Not like once again, I'm not an Ohio State apologist by any stretch of the imagination, even though it feels like I may be in this first segment here. But I thought it was laughable that Ryan Day said that. But at the end of the day, Nebraska's got to stop them. They got to stop them.
Here's my deal. I don't care that they scored 52 points. I don't. It's not a big deal. I mean, they didn't score 82 or 92. It's 52, right? That's college football these days. But don't tell me you didn't have the right personnel in the game to kneel down. I mean, I can kneel down. You can kneel down. I don't get it.
It's like some of these quarterbacks not being able to slide.
Yeah, well, that's different. I mean, sliding, at least you're running, and what's his name? Knee brace got caught on the turf the other day in the NFL, but that's different. I mean, that's in the middle of somebody's chasing you down. What's it take to kneel? That's my point.
I love Nelson's comment here. Heisman winner Mertz for 1-0 Wisconsin. It may be at this point, right?
Well, what was he completing 98% of his passes or something? Don't know if there's ever been another one like that. And over in the SEC, you spend a minute on Alabama, Jalen Waddle's injury on the opening kickoff. And you wanted to make you had some thoughts about Nick Saban after the game.
Yeah, well, Nick Saban was as robotic as ever. And I don't know if people saw his post-game interview, but they asked him about it. And he said, oh, yeah, he's a great player. He would do great things for us. But next man up. We got other guys that need to play too. It was just an insert another one, insert another robot into his place. So it feeds my system. They're Alabama's just a system players. But man, I feel bad for Jalen Waddle. He was as exciting as anybody in the country for those first 4, 5, 6 games that Alabama's played. Mac Jones, he's made Mac Jones look fantastic. But like anything else, Alabama does have other wide receivers. Are they to the level of Jalen Waddle? I don't think so. But Smith, what's his first name? He's as good as they come too. And Mechie's a good receiver too. So, and they have Najee Harris. I mean, I'm not worried about Alabama one bit, although it just stinks for the kid that he's going to miss the entire year on kind of a fluke, just got rolled up on his ankle.
Yeah, on the opening kickoff too, no doubt. It's always, man, those ankles are hard to see. Every now and then I have bad dreams about ankle injuries and that I got in basketball in high school. Hey, just a reminder for anybody listening, we'd like to know, we'd like to know where you're watching from. We've had Kodiak, Alaska, Spartanburg, South Carolina, Phoenix, Arizona, and of course the Levines there are also in Alaska.
I saw Mr. Chad Yarber. He's in Savannah, Georgia. So we're covering some of the Southeast as well.
Cool.
I got a couple texts from a Jamestown, New York. So we're going nationwide here.
We're going all over the country, and some of the podcasts on the podcast version we get all over the world. Hey, let's talk a little bit about Clemson. My rant today. I'm going to try and not rant about this and just talk about it calmly and confidently. I do not like when writers tell other fans how to be fans or what they should feel or how to react to a game. Now, I'm old enough to know that I am not a guy who screams and yells. And we got Cheesy Ryder in Wisconsin there. I am old enough where I do not scream and yell. And it does bother me sometimes when people, it's 3rd and 2 in the first quarter of the Clemson Citadel game, and they don't pick up the first down, and people cuss and scream and yell. They're going to win the game by 50 points. What good does it do, right? What does that solve? Nothing. On the other hand, I also think you have to point out when Clemson doesn't play to their standard, right? I'm not saying, like I said, don't scream and yell against the Citadel when you're going to win 72-0 and it's the first quarter. But Dabo's the one who set the standard and made up the saying, best is the standard. I'm not asking for perfection. They're human beings. They're 18 to 21-year-old young men. But I'm asking for them to play to a standard. And as I put on the Facebook group last week, complacency kills. It kills college football teams, programs, seasons, and games. You can't be complacent. And I fully believe that Dabo is saying this to his team behind the scenes, right? He's not saying, oh, you guys did great. We had blocked punts. We had, overthrown passes. We had pick six. We had run blocking that Travis Etienne makes look decent. I wonder if it wasn't Etienne in the backfield, what the run game would look like. So there are a lot of issues to fix. Does that mean they're a bad team or I don't like Clemson? No. But I'm also not going to stick my head in the sand and say everything is perfect. I manage projects for a living in the real world, right? And some of them are shorter, some of them are longer. They could last for years. We don't, after we have a project or even at certain intervals during the project, we don't say, well, wow, we got that code in. That's great. Nothing to worry about. We have retrospectives. What did we do good? What did we do bad? What do we need to start? What do we need to stop? It's about continuous improvement. We don't sit back and say, yeah, that code's real shaky, but we shoved it in there and it works fine. No, you continually try and improve. And we don't sit there and tell our bosses, everything's fine here. Don't look. Maybe I need to go somewhere else if you're not happy with this. It's about continuous improvement. Ran over.
Well, I'm with you. I don't pay too much attention. So I see it, but I don't pay too much attention to it. I was watching the game on Saturday with my oldest stepson, who's definitely become a big Clemson fan. And like a lot of kids, especially in the 16, 17-year-old range, everyone stinks, right? Everyone's the worst. Everyone's so bad. So that's the lingo that they use anyway. So I was watching it with him, but he was kind of quiet, and I just kept saying, man, we don't look good. Thank goodness Syracuse's offense was laughable for 98% of the game. And I talked about Rex Culpepper being a Tampa kid where I lived in Tampa for a long time, but he didn't show me anything. And literally they couldn't run the ball, especially when the first running back went out. Just the busted coverage and the end around play that went for a lot of yards were really the only two plays that were stuck out to me that were worth a ding. But we just didn't click, and everything bad that could have happened to Clemson on offense did, and yet they won by 26 points. So that's the thing that I always remind myself. And you're right, Marty. I think you can absolutely be critical of them, and I love the fact as a Clemson fan that there is so much stuff to work on.
Right.
If this team was, everyone's saying that they could be the best team that Clemson's had in some time and blah, blah, blah. Well, we don't have an alpha receiver, right? We don't have that number one guy. But I know we're going to get into it, but there was times during the play calling that we were talking about, or that we will talk about, that we had, I keep saying Clemson, Amari Rodgers got the first two plays of the game, right? They were the exact same play to one side and then the other side, right? The exact same play. Picks up 8, picks up 12. We gained 20 yards. You don't see that play again until the middle of the third quarter. I mean, I'm not a football-minded guy. I watch a lot of it. I'm not a coach by any stretch. I didn't play. But if that play's working, why don't you continue to do it until maybe they step up and stop it? Especially because the run blocking wasn't good the other night. It hasn't been really that strong the whole season, but the pass blocking is fantastic. Trevor's got an hour and a half to throw, so it's a weird dichotomy of the offensive line. But my thing with the play calling was, if things are working, I loved the fact that it was the same exact play the first two plays of the game. Like, I thought that was the smartest thing that Tony Elliott's done in a long time.
Right.
And I almost wanted him to do it a third, because there was 17 yards, I think, is what they got in those first two plays. Keep it going. Like, let's go back and forth. Let's do playground football. Like, it worked on the left side. Let's try it on the right side. Oh, it worked on the right side. Let's go back to the left side. So, and I know Justin's making a comment here that it's all about putting in more stuff on for film. I get it. But there's only so much time left in the season. I know the big game's coming next weekend, right? That's the one that everyone's talking about. It's going to top 5 matchup, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, they script the first few plays, don't they? So, I guess the first couple, well, that's what I've heard. I don't know. Maybe JP can chime in and tell us if he's listening. Maybe they script the first few plays, but that seemed weird. If you're scripting the first 2, 3, or 5, 10 plays, you run the same one twice, like you knew it was going to work. So obviously, why not run it again, as you said? Well, let's say it started off with breakfast, right? The problem started off with Saturday morning breakfast. Travis didn't have the right breakfast. Then he fumbled again, which is the second game in a row. Lawrence was way off, throwing high. He had a pick 6. He had another one, a guy hit 3 times and still couldn't intercept it. There's a block punt, a missed field goal. The run blocking, as you pointed out, was less than optimal. And again, as I said earlier, if Travis Etienne's not in that backfield, I really wonder how good that run game would be, because that seems like about 90% of his yards are after contact. And the play calling. What are we doing sending the hopefully Heisman Trophy quarterback not over the middle of the field quite, but not down the sideline? I mean, he was, where he's getting drilled. I don't understand. I don't understand why. I understand why Trevor runs the ball, right? Because that's part of the running game, right? To keep him, quote, honest. I don't understand why Trevor Lawrence is catching passes. You can't convince me that was the best play call in that spot.
If Amari throws the ball, though, we may have a different tune talking about one of the best plays we've seen all year, because if he throws and leads Trevor, he's gone. Instead, he throws it right into where he's going to get his head knocked off, and almost does.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree. I'd have probably
But the play call, I get it. Yeah.
But the whole point is you're putting him in harm's way because
there's no reason for it. It's
Amari Rodgers throwing the ball and not DJ Uiagalelei. How about that? All right. I only had to practice that 78 times, but I don't want to complain too much because somebody will be writing an article about me.
I think it really is just there's a lot to improve on, and I love it. I think it's great that this team that's ranked number 1 in the country, that fans aren't, like you said, aren't happy with the standard that they're setting early. And we talked about championship phase that's coming up here soon, but I think, and maybe at that time they're going to be perfect, but I don't think they're as unbeatable as maybe we thought 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, no doubt. And Nelson chimed in and said the pass to Trevor was underthrown. I think that's obvious, but my point would be, even if he was wide open, as Beef said, you're putting him in harm's way, right? Somebody could catch him. What happens if somebody catches him, grabs an ankle, and he's Jalen Waddle-ish? It's not a smart play. I don't care. He could have scored a touchdown, and I would have gone, yay, great. But I just don't think Trevor should be catching passes. So what do we know about the injuries to Tyler Davis? I don't even know. I know JP said in the Facebook group that he wouldn't be back this week, and he wasn't sure about the Notre Dame game. So does anybody know about the injury to Tyler Davis and what's going on there? And what about Skalski? Do you know much about Skalski's situation? It sounded really painful.
Yeah, he's got a groin that they did a quick MRI and found a tear that he's going to need to have a scope. So he's going to have a groin scope, which I didn't think even existed, but that does not sound fun. But he's going to miss a few weeks too.
Wow. Nobody's thrilled, at least out of the 95% of males that watch the show and chime in on the Facebook group, nobody's thrilled about groin scopes. I can't even say it. Groin scopes.
Nelson's right, though. Like, why are we running gadget plays against Syracuse? Is exactly right.
Oh, absolutely. And again, if we're going to run gadget plays, let Amari throw the ball to Frank Latson Jr. or, I don't care. Put Skalski out there when he's healthy. Let him catch a pass.
Brissy, yeah.
Just don't put Trevor out there. Hey, Casey, I don't know if everybody knows this, but this is your second gig. Well, it's the first one during the week, but really your second gig. You do another show with the guy we're going to talk to in a few minutes, Zach Locks Parker. And it's called the Chop and Beef Show. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your Chop and Beef Show?
Yeah, it's kind of like this, where we discuss college football, but we do it in a much more derogatory way. There's no video for it, thank goodness, because we would probably have it's just a lot of fun. It's the vision behind it when I started it 3 years ago was really just three guys at the bar drinking beers, no holds barred. We wanted it to be like an adult kind of game day, college game day. That was really the vision of it, and that's where it's gone. We love to go off the rails. We love to talk about random stuff, taste tests of awful beers and food. We're just a bunch of jerks, for lack of a better phrase. I'd like to have a good time. So thank you for putting it up there. I got another guy, JJ, in Tampa. That is our resident cliche guy. He's a character for us. We enjoy it. So check it out. Anchor, Spotify, Apple, iTunes. All
those places. Chop and Beef Show. Now, you guys had me laughing the other day. It was at your expense, of course. I always laugh at Casey's expense. You were talking about, I think you were going to a game in Florida. And
Florida State.
You had just a little bit too much to drink.
Yeah. Back in 2000, when we were, I think, 6-0, decided to think we were going to make the national championship game. We rented a bus. So a lot of my friends had graduated and migrated to Atlanta. And so they rented a bus. It was like $35 a head. We just loaded up with beer and food and good people and drove down to Tallahassee. And it was just a long trip of a lot of booze. And that was the play, for those Clemson fans out there, that Chris Winkie, we stopped him. No, we punted. We were driving a little bit and punted. The first drive of the game, pinned him at the 2. And our seats were all in the end zone. So we're in that end zone. Winkie drops back with a play action, puts it down at his side. It felt like an hour and a half. And he throws it to Snoop Minnis for 98 yards. And it was all downhill from there. It was a long bus ride back, and I had imbibed too much, and it came back up. So, yeah, that was my story this week. That's the type of stories with a little bit more detail and maybe some adult words.
Yeah, check out the Chop and Beef if you want the full unedited story. Nelson, by the way, Nelson chimes in and says Tyler Davis has a high ankle sprain, according to David Hood on TigerNet. And he also says that Chop and Beef is the R-rated version of Sluggo. Yes, this show is able to be watched by young William LaCoe.
That's right.
And even Parker Coleman, if he liked Dad's podcast anymore, but he doesn't. So we won't talk about that anymore. Hey, Casey, let me fix this just a second. And speaking of your fellows over at the Chop and Beef Show, one of them comes on this show. He does a great job making picks. It's almost that time, so let's get it going.
Dave, you could have done any worse if you tried.
Oh, I take that as a victory.
These guys are doing research, so why should I? Beef, you stink the most.
A true believer in what they're doing in North Carolina. That's why I'm picking Virginia Tech, Tennessee.
I love Spencer Rattler.
I agree with Marty.
I don't like this.
Look, you smell it, the backdoor cover.
I don't smell a backdoor cover. I smell a bunch of bad picks coming up is what I smell. But
that picture of Locks is fantastic.
I clipped that from the first show he was on. You were saying something, and he was sticking his tongue out. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. Now, our record, let me pull that up here so the people can laugh. This is a joke, everybody. So there we are. I'm leading the pack, air quotes, at 18-20-2. Zach 16-22-2, and the Beef is still making money for the people who go Oppo. He's 12-26-2, and I didn't think that was possible. And but as you saw there, look at last week there.
Yeah,
we're starting to roll. And
rolling.
I look, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I don't check those out every 5 seconds during the day. So maybe once. I knew we had the Clemson game, right? We knew Zach and I picked the same game, so we're at the same record. We won Clemson, so we're off to a good start. But let me tell you something. When I checked it out after all the games were played,
oh my God, the universe is collapsing.
when we went 4-1, I was like, what? I forgot what that felt like, Zach.
I never knew what it felt like. This season, it's been a rough go for sure, and I was thrilled to be part of it, Marty. Whether I rode your coattails or vice versa, that's probably more like it though. But man, it was nice to get a 4-1 under my belt though.
It's kind of weird, and that's the reason we take turns going first, second, and third, right? Because we don't want anybody riding any coattails.
Sure.
Just worked out that way, and it seems like every week it works out the way that the beef is going first, because we let the person in last place go first. And Locks, you've got a fan. It's Nelson.
My man.
And we don't have a fan. I think the garbage can is most appropriate for these picks that are about to happen. So we will see. First up, Boston College is getting 31 points. They're traveling to Clemson. Mr. Beef, as the honorary poll holder at the poll position, you get to go first.
That's right. Get used to it, boys. I'm going first all season long.
Let's go.
I don't
It's not a good thing.
This is the perfect time to pick Clemson, right? Because they didn't cover the really big spread, and they did the week before, and I went the opposite way both times. So this is the perfect time to buck the trend, right, and go to Clemson. Nah, I'm not. I don't think they're going to cover the 31 points against Boston College. So give me BC.
All right, Zach Locks Parker.
The hardest game of the week to pick. Like, this is probably 3 weeks in a row. It's been rough to pick with these massive lines. 31 points. I did the math back and forth. I think the defense, with a couple of guys hurt, is going to be whipped into shape this week, though, and really limit BC. And Dabo, we all know, can't take criticism, so he's going to let the offense go ahead and eat. So I'm going to take Clemson in this one.
Wow, that's a little bit of a surprise to me. All right. I actually did some research, fellas. Y'all are either in trouble or you're in luck, and we'll find out Saturday evening which one it is. These teams are 5-5 the last 10 games against each other against the spread. BC's 4-2 in their last 6. Clemson's 2-4. Boston College is 13-2 in their last 15 in October against the spread. So that doesn't mean anything to me. What I see from Clemson is that they're struggling to find someone on the outside, and the big plays just really aren't there other than handing it off to Travis and hope he does a pirouette and scores. But I think that's going to limit Clemson's scoring. Now, I looked at some film of Boston College. Wasn't particularly impressed. The quarterback that everybody's raving about, he overthrew a guy by about 8 yards and was intercepted when he wasn't even under pressure. But the real play here is the under. But I'm going to take Boston College in 31 points because I don't see the big plays out of the Clemson pass game.
Got to watch out for Zay Flowers and tight ends. That's what fast, speedy little slot receivers give Clemson fits sometimes, and the tight end.
Well, Boston College, the games I watched, they look methodical. And I know they're running 70 plays a game or whatever, and still that's like 9 less than Clemson. But they just look real methodical. There was no game changers at wide receiver, just kind of plotting, a fast plotting team, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Next game up is Virginia and North Carolina. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to go to Texas and Oklahoma State. I always screw this up. Texas is getting 3.5 at Oklahoma State. I'm up first. Let's see if I can screw this up too. Oklahoma State's 7-3 straight up and against the spread the last 10 versus Texas. And in the last 5, Texas is only 1-4 against the spread, while Oklahoma State's 8-2 in the last 10. My initial reaction was to take Texas because of Sam Ehlinger, but that's about all Texas has. I'm going to take, but my initial reaction the entire year has not been good. So I am going to take Oklahoma State and give Texas the 3.5 points. Beefaroni.
Yeah, I don't have much reason for it. I think this, just from what I've seen, I think that this has Texas written all over it. But once again, I'm bucking the trend and say Oklahoma State, Chuba Hubbard, they're starting to really do some things down there in Stillwater, and they may be the only hope for the Big 12 to get into the playoff. So I think the mullet is the man, and I think Oklahoma State wins here.
All right, Zach Locks Parker.
I looked up the stats on Chuba this year. He's actually he's averaging over 100 yards a game. Looking real good last week too. 25 rushes, 139 yards, averaging 5.6 of carry. He's really kind of hitting his stride. Kind of looked a little lethargic earlier in the year, but I kind of think he's bought in a little bit. There were some questions earlier in the year with the off season that he had with the coach, and their online argument. But one thing I did notice too is Oklahoma State for the Big 12, they're only averaging giving up 12 points a game. That says a lot in the Big 12. So 3.5 points, that's what messed us up last week, was that half point, Marty.
Yeah.
We would have gone 5-0, but I'm going to take Oklahoma State too. I agree with both you guys. I think I think it could actually be a blowout because Texas doesn't have anybody but their quarterback. There's not a lot going on. Their quarterback is the entire team there, I think.
And they make a lot of mistakes, penalties, and turnovers, and all kind of things. All right, Ohio State is giving 12 points. They're headed to Penn State. Now, this probably would have been a more interesting game if there were fans in the stadium in the whiteout. This is the whiteout, right? Whiteout game. All right, Locks, you're up first. 12 points. Ohio State is favored over Penn State.
Yeah, it's usually like the whiteout Halloween game. Could you imagine being in college for this game, with a packed, crazy stadium, people with, actual real pumpkins on their heads? It's pure insanity, but not this year, too bad. It's really going to hurt Penn State, I think. Also hurts that they got beat by Indiana last week. That kind of, exposed them a little bit. A lot of tape out there for Ohio State to check out, I'm sure. So Ohio State has won 7 of the last 8. Penn State lost. They're after a third-string running back. They have their second stringer was actually out for an unknown reason. Also, then Noah Cain, their leading rusher from last year, got hurt versus Indiana. So that being said, it doesn't leave a whole lot left for me to pick Penn State at all here. So I got Ohio State big too here. So give me them to win this game by a healthy margin, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I did a little bit of research in this game, not much, because I think Ohio State is on a mission, and Penn State's down a couple running backs, and I don't think it's going to be close. I'm going to take Ohio State and give the 12 points. Beef.
Yeah, you could have put probably a 30 spot for me on this one without Micah Parsons too, the stud linebacker for Penn State that opted out. And then all the injuries that they're having and issues they're having on offense. I know this is a rivalry game. I don't want it to be a blowout. I think because Ohio State doesn't know how to kneel, that they're going to get this cover towards the end. I think they cover.
Hello.
Justin and I are 3 for 3 together. Justin Lineweaver and I. You better be worried that you and I are
right here. No doubt. All right, Arkansas is getting 12.5 at Texas A&M. Beef's team to win the SEC West. Now, we're laughing at Beef for that, but we're not laughing at Beef for Oklahoma State. This is a big week for the Cowboys, as we talked about. So, Beef, 12.5 points, Arkansas, Texas A&M. Who you got?
Because I picked Texas A&M to win the SEC West, I'm definitely picking Arkansas to cover. No question. I don't know if they win the game, but 12 is a big number, I think, for both those teams. I just think that Arkansas is actually decent on offense. Felipe is coming back into a little bit. He's doing all right for himself, and I love the running back for Arkansas.
Well, if you go to enough SEC schools, you'll finally find one where you can play quarterback. Locks, what do you got?
Over under, and this one's 54.5. So we already could probably tell it's not going to be a very high scoring game. A&M, we've talked before, doesn't seem like they always have their offense put together and ready to play. And Arkansas's defense is pretty good. They've been in almost all games they've played this year. Had the one versus Auburn stolen from them. Actually, 5 of the last 8 times these two teams have played, it's been decided by a touchdown or less. So that tells me it's got to be Arkansas here. Put me down for them.
All right, it's going to be a clean sweep. Arkansas 6-0 in their last 6 games against the spread. They're 0-8 straight up against A&M, which goes to Beef's point, I think, and I think everybody's point really, that A&M is going to win, but Arkansas is going to cover. You can't trust – who can trust, Kellen Mond to cover 11 points? They may win by 30. I don't know, but I wouldn't bet on it.
They do have a good running game. That Isaiah Spiller wearing 28 for them is really pretty solid. So they do have now an established run. He's only a sophomore, I believe, and maybe they can score. We'll see.
Okay. Final game of the evening is North Carolina travels to Virginia. 6.5 points. Now, Locks, you know more about this point spread stuff than I do. Well, you wouldn't know looking at the standings, but theoretically, you know more about this than I do. Does something about this smell? I mean, 6.5 points, North Carolina.
It was surprising. It was 7. It went down to 6.5. Virginia with 1 win. UNC coming off a big W themselves. I thought I was a little surprised myself. So,
okay,
I don't know. Yeah,
I just want to make sure. I want to make sure I wasn't the only one.
Right.
Tar Heels are 6-2 in their last 8 games against the spread, but only 1-4 in the last 5 against Virginia. Here's some crazy numbers. Virginia is 10-4-1 on Saturdays at home in the last 15 games. When the sun's out and it's between 65 and 73 degrees, and number 42 is playing running back. They're actually 10-4-1 on the last 15 on Saturdays. So there's a whole bunch of conflicting information here, but the spread is this low. If it was more than 7, I'd probably go with Virginia, but 6.5, I'm going with the Tar Heels. Beef, who you got?
Yeah, I am full agreement. Full candid, I thought if we had Virginia and Miami last week with a healthy Brandon Armstrong, I really thought that Virginia was going to beat Miami last week, but I'm 12-26, so I mean it makes a lot of sense. This one kind of I thought the same way until I saw North Carolina play last week. I know 2 weeks ago, Florida State laid it on them, right? But last week they kind of had a little retribution, so I'm going to take North Carolina to cover pretty handily here.
All right, Locks.
I look back at the games this year. The Virginia defense has given up 20, 41, 38, 40, and then 19 last week in a game that was raining. So UNC has scored in their games 31, 26, 56, 28, 48. Quite a disparity there. I think North Carolina is coming back on their own after that slip up versus Florida State. They got the quarterback, you know that. They love to run the ball though too. Man, they I think 300 plus yards last week and running offense. So give me UNC handily here, probably 2 touchdowns at least, I think.
All right. And Nelson's chiming in saying my research is scary.
It is scary, Marty.
It'll be scary on Sunday.
My research also said that for those out there that this is one that I'm actually going to put my money where my mouth is. The research is out that this one, like you just said, locks with all those numbers to play the over.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go over these picks real quick. The Beef coming up, trying to overtake us here. He has taken North Carolina, Boston College, Ohio State, Oklahoma State, and Arkansas. I took North Carolina, Boston College, Ohio State, Oklahoma State, and Arkansas. Beef. We got the same picks.
Oh,
I only have 1 pick different than both of y'all.
That's gross.
Zach Knox Parker takes Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma State, and Arkansas. So I'm still going to be in first place after this week. That's what that tells me. But maybe by 1 game, maybe by 3. And maybe I can pull Mr. Beef up by his bootstraps and
or pull you down, pal.
Well, out of the 2 options, that's definitely the most likely. So all right, guys. As always, I appreciate it. And next Wednesday, hey, we got a big game next week. We get a game that we can talk about a little bit instead of laughing and joking about 31-point spreads. It'll only be 20. But actually, we should be getting into the meat of the season for a lot of teams next week. So hopefully we won't have 31-point spreads and things like that. But appreciate your time. Hey, fellas, everybody out there, buy the book by Casey's Friends. What is it again, Casey?
It is called, wow, you're putting me on the spot. It is called Between Each Step, a married couple's through hike on New Zealand's Te Aurora by Patrice Levine. Don't give Justin any credit. He just married well. But you can find it. We'll put it up on our website, Wandering Levines. That's VIGNES.com.
Well,
Good people.
Casey, he did walk 2,000 miles, so it wasn't
Twice.
Twice
For fun.
He walked more than the 50 miles I did on the Appalachian Trail. So, and check out the Chop and Beef Thursday nights, wherever you find podcasts. Fellas, as always, it's fun. Talk to you next week.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone listening and watching. We appreciate you very much.
Absolutely.
I think that sounds pretty good.